Can I not marry? Audio web novel chapter 58. I want to strangle myself to death. Just as Du Lacey was immersed in Lian Jun grandma's kind smile, the old lady suddenly said to Lian Jun, "Your father came very early on." Once this sentence was spoken, each and one of everyone's face had some sort of strange expression, especially Lian Anna. Her complexion appeared gloomy, her quiet eyes that was always hard to read suddenly had hints of unspeakable sadness. Of course, this time Du Lacey had the most exaggerated expression of them amongst them all. Her expression changed as fast as lightning, it was filled with terror. Isn't the president's dad the same person as Xiao Yin's dad? And isn't Xiao Yin's dad the stern uncle that she offended the other day? He also came as well. Why didn't anyone tell her this? Du Lacey suddenly panicked. She gave the president a cursory glance, however he had his head lowered and deep immersed in his own thoughts. The expression on his face was hard for others to read. At this time, Xiao Lixi's voice sounded from the house, "Ah Jun." His tone seemed somewhat surprised. Du Lacey was also surprised. She quickly moved 2 steps behind the president. In fact, she really didn't need to hide because Xiao Lixi never paid her any attention. The moment he stepped out from the mansion, his eyes were full of joy seeing Lian Jun, completely a different person from the stern uncle she encountered. "You came," Lian Jun said in a dull tone. "Yes," Xiao Lixi said with much excitement. "Long time no see. How have you been?" Lian Jun nodded in reply. "Quite good." Just from listening to his reply, he didn't have the joy a son should have after not seeing their father for a long time. His voice even contained a hint of coldness. Xiao Lixi seemed slightly embarrassed. He stared at Lian Anna who was on the side and explained with some shame. "A few days ago I was abroad on a business trip so I didn't know you've returned. Living in a foreign country alone, are you accustomed to it?" Seeing Lian Anna not speaking, he added, "If you're not accustomed to, why don't return? It's better having someone to take care of you." Unexpectedly, he'll also care whether she had anyone taking care of her. Lian Anna gave a wry smile. "You don't have to worry, I'm carefree living on my own, my days are more comfortable." Originally Xiao Lixi only wanted to start a conversation. He didn't expect Lian Anna refute him so quickly. Her words also seemed to contain some allude. For the moment, he actually didn't know what to say next. In front of his ex-wife and son, Xiao Lixi always felt indebted towards them. Because this kind of feeling existed, it made him a businessman who have fought the grueling business world for decades to feel overwhelmed facing them. Du Lacey stood on the side in a daze. Is this the same father-in-law she met yesterday? How could his aura change so quickly? When she was still clueless and had many doubts, she suddenly felt a hairy thing on 2 of her feet. She looked down and saw a bundle of black and white fur sitting near her feet which made her squirm. "Help ah!" Du Lacey was so frightened that her soul escaped from her body. She seized Lian Jun's arms and climbed onto him like octopuses. "What are you doing? It's only a kitten. It is necessary to be this scared." "A kitten." Du Lacey lowered her head and intently stared at the black and white fur ball object turned out to be the kitten Lian Jun's grandma was feeding previously. Because she was immense in deep thought she didn't realize the kitten have made its way to her feet. Du Lacey felt extremely embarrassed. She hurriedly got off Lian Jun and squatted to pick up the kitten that she had frightened half to death with her loud screams. Gently she consoled it. "Good kitty, don't be afraid, don't be afraid." The originally shivering kitten began to shake even more severely. Du Lacey's heart was surprised. It's over. This kitten wouldn't be frightened silly by her, right? Don't worry too much. Kaka is just afraid of strangers. Lian Jun's grandmother came over. "Oh, it's called Kaka." Du Lacey looked at the kitten that she had frightened silly, then worryingly asked Grandma Lian, "Why doesn't it respond the slightest ah? Could it be there's something wrong with it?" One Papa Lian was tiring enough. If she unintentionally frightened silly Grandma Lian's kitten, then today she might really need to go to the underworld to accompany Grandpa Lian. "It's okay. Just leave it, sir. Give it a moment." Grandma Lian said, pulling out some catnip from her pocket, placing it in front of Kaka's nose to let it sniff the treat. Sure enough, after the kitten smelled catnip aroma, it meowed twice then tumbled and turned within Du Lacey's arms. Whoa, this kitten is really ungrateful. Merely a few pieces of catnip cause it to be so happy like that. Just as Du Lacey was sighing, she suddenly heard Lian Jun whispered into her ears, "I think you and the cat are very much alike." Ah, Du Lacey didn't understand the meaning of the president's words. "You both have no brains. Du Lacey, you." Du Lacey placed Kaka down, and very resentfully glared at the president. Just because she didn't sit in the location he wanted her to, so he's intentionally provoking her. Which a husband fuses over his wife so much. Too excessive. Simply too excessive. Du Lacey glared at Lian Jun. She was ready to condemn him for his bad behavior, however she didn't even have a chance to speak when caught Xiao Lixi's calm and steadily staring at her, her hands that were ready to stretch out towards Lian Jun retracted. Her heart made a crashing sound. "I what?" Lian Jun raised his eyebrows staring at her. Du Lacey timidly stared at Xiao Lixi and hurriedly hid behind Lian Jun. This small actions of hers attracted Lian Jun's attention. He followed her gaze and had a general idea. He deliberately moved to the side, exposing Du Lacey to Xiao Li Shi. She's my wife, he said bluntly. President, can you not be so straightforward? Du Lacey could not help but secretly complain. She secretly glanced at Xiao Li Shi. Merely staring at him made her suddenly freeze. Her complexion suddenly changed from green to white. The color was abundantly lush. The atmosphere temporarily became very strange. Du Lacey felt that her father-in-law has been transformed into a simmering volcano. A slight touch will cause an eruption. However, Du Lacey was wrong. She had underestimated Xiao Li Shi. In front of his own most valued son, he never outbreak and lose himself. We should have dinner before speaking further, Xiao Li Shi said with a calm demeanor. Who? So it turns out that the president and his dad is from the same planet. When they're angry, they don't scold others, they'll ignore the person instead. Our poor Du was spendlessly ignored by her father-in-law. This meal, Du Lacey ate feeling extremely depressed. In addition to the strange atmosphere, the most important thing was that she felt guilty. Although she had clearly explained everything that happened yesterday to Lian Jun, she is not afraid of any misunderstanding happening between them. However, Xiao Li Shi is after all the president's dad. Because of Xiao Yin she had contradicted him, and has apparently offended him. According to the president's family odious personality, Xiao Li Shi will definitely settle accounts with her. This is called, karmic retribution will happen when the time comes. Once karmic retribution comes there's no escaping death. As expect, after dinner was after, and they finished worshipping Grandpa Lian and returned to the mansion, Xiao Li Shi found an excuse and pulled Lian Jun aside. Seeing the two alone, Du Lacey's nervousness suddenly reached a high tension. She had the impulse of wanting to eavesdropping on their conversation. However, Lian Anna called for her. Come and help me move my luggage upstairs. Her mother-in-law openingly asked her. Naturally Du Lacey couldn't refuse. She had no other choice but to absent-mindedly take the luggage up the stairs. Because she really wanted to listen to what Xiao Li Shi was saying to the president, so she didn't pay attention when making her way staircase. Thus she missed a step and almost fell. Be careful. Lian Anna hurried tried to help her. Du Lacey awkwardly touched the back of her head, foolishly giggled. I didn't look carefully. This silly girl is really like a blank sheet of paper. All her emotion could be seen so clearly by others. Lian Anna helplessly thought this daughter-in-law of hers is kinda cute. You can rest assured, they are both the type who cannot be affected by others. Du Lacey was stunned. It was the first time her mother-in-law took the initiative to comfort her, which made her suddenly feel that her stern mother-in-law isn't that dreadful as she imagined. She summoned her courage to ask, Father-in-law, what kind of person is he? Lian Anna's expression solidified on her face, then she fell into a deep meditation. Du Lacey secretly cried out, not good. In front of a woman how can she casually mention their ex-husband? Especially when this woman is filled with a strong sense of self-esteem. She immediately regretted her actions, ready to change the subject when Lian Anna suddenly opened her mouth. She bitterly curved the corners of her lips. He is an ambitious man. Sometimes I feel like our Jun is just like him. Oh, a tiger father will not beget a dog son. 1. Du Lacey's heart completely agreed with this. She fiercely nodded. The pair of father and son both had the face of a capitalist. Once you offend them, you'll absolutely have no good fruits to eat. Tiger father. Lian Anna paused. It could be considered so. But he is really too strong-headed. So strong-headed that even filing for divorce he waited for me to suggest it. Du Lacey didn't expect her mother-in-law to suddenly mention this. For a moment she felt somewhat ignorant to the issue. Lian Anna gave a wry smile. As a matter of fact, I am not qualified to say he's strong-headed, because I am also strong-headed myself. So strong-headed that before he could file for divorce, I handed him the divorce agreement first. In fact, you are still in love with him, right? Love. Lian Anna was startled. Perhaps, in fact, so many years have passed, I already did not know what love is. That year, because she loved him so she suggested a divorce. After a lapse of more than 20 years, feelings have faded, only heartaches lingered. Did you ever think that maybe towards you, he may. For a moment, Du Lacey didn't know what word she should be used to describe what she meant. Have sentiments towards me. Lian Anna filled in the words for her. Du Lacey was somewhat embarrassment. What I meant was, could it be that here you guys didn't communicate well enough so there's misunderstanding? Misunderstanding. Perhaps. However it's not important. We can't be together anymore. Why not? Du Lacey asked. You can't forget him, which means you're still in love with him. Since there's love, why can't you consider being with him? Seeing her face of doubt, Lian Anna finally understood the difference between her son and her own marriage. Their Du and Lian Jun's marriage may be a little simple, but it could be considered a blessing. She shook her head and lightly said, in this world, there are always some people and some things we miss the chance on. Lian Anna's word was like a pebble cast in the lake within Du Lacey's heart. She could not help but think that she and Lian Jun's intriguing encounter, it's still hard to believe if there's some people you'll miss in this world, would they have never? On the way home that day, because Lian Anna and old Yu staying behind to spend more time with Grandpa Lian, there were only the two of them in the car. Du Lacey sat in the driver-passenger seat. She recalled the words Lian Anna said, then she thought of Xiao Li Shi's attitude towards her. She couldn't help but feel uneasy. Seeing her dispirited, Lian Jun, who was driving, suddenly asked, "What's wrong? You're feeling carsick again?" Du Lacey regained her senses and hurriedly shook her head. "No, I was just took some motion sickness medicine before." Then you should take a nap. When you wake up we will have arrived." Oh. Du Lacey began to close her eyes. After a while, she uneasily opened her eyes again. No, she couldn't bear it no longer. She had to ask. "What did your father say to you?" Indeed, she was unable to relate it. Lian Jun kept a straight face as he said, "Not much." Du Lacey breathed a sigh of relief. However, he did mention the things that happened when he met you yesterday. Du Lacey, who was relaxed, suddenly tense up once again. Is he angry with me? No, he's not. Du Lacey's finally relaxed. However, he told me that you and Xiao Yin were openly pushing and openly exchange flattery in the mall. Once again Du Lacey tensed up and finally choked. Cough. She was in tears, plaintively staring at Lian Jun. "President, can you saying everything in one go? Suddenly giving a person such a fright will cause death. What? Are you feeling guilty?" Lian Jun asked. "Where? It was he who relentlessly followed me, not letting me go." "I didn't." "You didn't exchange flattery with him?" "Just a little bit, but I was forced to do it." Du Lacey made a vow. "You admit it now." Du Lacey was embarrassed to death. "This is not the main point. The main point is that it wasn't on my free will. President, you can't fail to distinguish right from wrong." Do. Lian Jun slowly said while still looking straight ahead, "A fly won't bite eggs without cranny."